In this ninth video about marketing, let's talk about pricing, and this is consumer pricing. We'll go over the basics. We'll talk about the limits on pricing and pricing objectives. The price is the amount of money exchanged for a good or service. This is your basic definition. The amount a customer must pay to acquire a product. So this is basic knowledge we all have. The value assigned to, negotiated for a product or service. This is the AMA, and I crossed out assigned to. It's more like negotiated for, because you can assign a price to a product, and if the customer is not willing to pay, well, you're not really assigning it. It's a negotiated thing between the manufacturer and the actual customer. The price determines how much a firm earns. Price charged times the number of units sold equals gross revenue, which is the R in the profit equals revenue minus expense formula. The price cannot either be too high or too low, and it has to equal the perceived value to target customers. So a lot of times we've seen this. We've seen products and something, it's like, we see it and we'd say, oh, I'd pay twice that for this. Or you buy something and you go, wow, I paid too much. So yes, it has to be either, it has to be the right price, neither too high nor too low of a perceived price. So the customer has to feel it's a good price. So meaning and use of the word price. Prices allocate goods and services among those who are willing and able to buy them. It's part of the so-called free markets. So what happens is you have a certain amount of money that comes in the door, and you have to decide how to spend that money. Some of it's on clothing, some of it's on transportation, healthcare, all of that stuff. So as the end consumer, you decide, you vote with your dollars about which products succeed and which don't. So there's an ethics question that always comes up, and it should be asked. Should healthcare, so longer life, be based on the ability to afford it? And what about streets, sewers, safety, water, electricity, and policing? So this is an ongoing discussion when you talk about pricing and how services are priced. Some of them have, it's more difficult to price because of ethical considerations. Second thing, prices allocate financial resources, revenue, among producers according to how well they satisfy customers' needs. It's a survival of the fittest, or maybe better said, the cleverest. So raw materials will theoretically be used to provide the things most valuable to consumers who pay the most. So oil is turned into gasoline, it's turned into plastic, it's turned into roads, it's turned into clothes. And we, again, vote with our dollars about how that oil is allocated. If human beings want more gasoline than they want synthetic clothes, then they will pay more for the gasoline than they will the clothes, and more oil will be turned into gasoline. It's just that simple. Prices require customers allocate their financial resources among various want and need satisfying products. So yes, this is what I just set up here. It includes transportation, healthcare, housing, food, and again, I'm repeating myself a bit. So a lot of things limit or affect final pricing. A lot of new product managers will go out and they'll think that they'll mess with pricing because it's the easiest thing. It's one of the few things that they feel is in their direct control. It has immediate results. So it's a feel-good thing. But as you become more experienced, you quickly learn that pricing is not as straightforward as that. So internally, price affects internally, and that's what we're talking about. Cost of goods sold, that's COGS. Price must cover costs and make profit. Company pricing objectives include things like maximizing profit, so you can have a high price to maximize profit. You can have a lower price to gain market share, or maybe just survive. Differentiation can increase perceived value, so unique features, branding, quality can all help vary the price. So a unique feature may help you raise the price. A good brand help you raise the price. 5 P's can influence the price perception and willingness to pay. That's product, price, place, promotion. There's a video on that if you haven't seen it. And then there's organization effect, discount policies, or pricing authority. So this is what the big bosses decide. Then there's the external factors that are impacted by pricing. High market demand and limited supply can allow higher prices and vice versa. So yes, if people want to buy something, so for example, oil, gasoline, if there's high market demand, then the prices go up. Or if there's limited supply, like when there's an oil crunch, yeah, you can have higher prices. And then the opposite of that is true. When there's too much oil, you may have lower gasoline prices and lower overall prices of anything that's made from oil. Competition, current or anticipated, heavily influences pricing decisions. Yes, higher the price that you charge, the more appealing the market is to your competitors, and vice versa. Economic, so this is reality. You have inflation, you have recession, interest rates impact spending power and willingness to pay. And then there's market sentiment, which is it's related to economic reality, but this is more of a feeling that people have. So these are attitudes and expectations about the economy and market impacts. These impact the willingness of consumers to pay. So if a customer is feeling like their job's at risk, they're going to spend less money. And if that's common across an economy, even if it's not true, if they just feel that way, the economy is going to pull back, and sometimes that will trigger a recession. And yeah, so you can get this self-perpetuating mess where people pull back. That causes job losses. People see that, they pull back more job losses, and it just keeps spiraling. Government can affect pricing. Regulations related to pricing, so there can be windfall profit taxes. There can be price ceilings placed on things. Taxes overall change pricing because when you have higher taxes on something, consumers see that as just being part of the price. So if the price is a dollar, but the government comes along and puts another dollar tax on it, the customer usually sees that as a $2 price for the product. And then there are other influences on pricing. Then there's distribution channels. So these are ways products or services are distributed directly by distribution, whatever. These can all affect the cost to the customer because as more hands touch a product along the way, the price usually goes up. Customer perceptions of product value, so including its quality, benefits, features, influences their willingness to pay. So people are more willing to pay for a Rolex. They're willing to pay more money for a Rolex than they are, say, a Timex. And promotions, discounts, sales, and so on can temporarily affect prices and influence consumers. There are price versus non-price forms of competition. Price competition is setting prices less than or equal to the competitors' prices to gain sales or market share. So yeah, if you want to gain sales or you want to gain more market share, maybe you lower the price. It's not really good to go into this price lowering mode all the time because it leads to your product becoming a commodity, and commodities are subject to competition, to say the least. So they can be very vicious. And yeah, it's just not a good thing. It allows you to have a lot less freedom with pricing also. The internet allows price comparison everywhere in the world. So for example, it used to be very common for companies, if they had overstocks of things like washers, dryers, and other appliances, to sell them overseas, and oftentimes they would sell them at a higher price. But what's happened with the internet is that people can get online and they can look and see how much that costs, and they say, hey, that's last year's model. I don't want to pay full price for that. So yeah, it's not as effective, and the internet is allowing people to do price comparison real time without showing up at the store. Then there's non-price competition, and that is competition based on non-price factors like quality or customer service or packaging. And we all have those products that we like because the quality is better, or the customer service is better, or even the packaging is better, and we're willing to pay a little bit more, maybe even a lot more because of those things. You can use product differentiation, but customers must be able to perceive the differences. I went to work for a friend of mine who had a manager. One of his execs left unexpectedly, and he had a high-end extreme sports clothing line, and these products were typically 5 times what you'd pay for typical sportswear. The thing is that customers were having trouble understanding why they should pay 5 times. Now, when I sat down with my friend and he walked me through it, it was perfectly logical. It was the type of fabrics. The fabrics were, these really high-end, super tech things, and better zippers and better, just everything was better about it. But the average customer would walk in, look at that, and just go, "Whew, I can't afford that." So what we did is we created hang tags that explained why the customer was doing that, and we turned that product line around, and we doubled sales in short order because customers could now see why they wanted to pay 5 times more. Buyers' perceptions of price. Buyers may accept different prices for different products at different times and places. Gum, batteries, and so on are typically more expensive at the checkout stand of the grocery store than they are in other places in the same store. Premium price can work if a product is seen as superior or has strong brand loyalty. So, for example, Apple is a good example of that. So, a brief aside on pricing. This is kind of mind-blowing. If you look at prices, everybody in the supply chain lives off of part of the final price that's charged. So, my example has always been $1 ballpoint pen. The oil company that drills and pumps the oil that goes into the plastics lives off that $1. The factory that makes the oil, turns oil into plastics, they live off of that $1. The company that supplies the plastic pigments, the coloring, they live off of that $1. The ink company lives off that $1. The metal company that makes the little tip, the ball bearing company that makes the ball, the packaging supplier, the delivery truckers, the retail store, the online store, the people, the buildings, all that stuff, and probably 100 other things that I missed, all live off of that $1 price of the pen. Everybody is getting their share of that $1, and that's what keeps the economy running. So business is beautifully efficient when it's well harnessed. Consumer pricing objectives, they include things like survival. So just pricing products to keep a foothold in the market so you can kind of hold on or keep the company alive in bad times. This happened a lot during COVID. Profit maximization, pricing with the intent to reap profits as large as possible from a market. Okay, usually it's an unattainable goal because you don't really know what the maximum is. And it also makes the market really interesting to competitors when you're charging a high price. They see that high price, they want that high price too, and they're going to get involved. And then there's target return on investment, which is ROI, and it's pricing that allows the firm to attain its profit goal, which is a percent of the investment the firm has made. So if the firm puts $100 million into a product, it may say, we want 20% on that, we want 50% on that. And it's usually set at the company, not the product level. So if a firm wants 30% after tax, it's going to set the price in order to get that 30% after tax. Continuing on with consumer pricing objectives, there's market share pricing. So this is goal-based. Low pricing to increase the firm's percentage of a total industry sales. So you want your name to be out there when people think about it. You don't want to be the small fry in a huge market. You want to be the big player. So you set a price to hold and obtain market share, and you increase and decrease price to ensure, say, for example, an 80% market share. And Coke and Pepsi do this a lot. So then there's status quo pricing, and that's pricing the products to maintain the stability of prices in the industry and to avoid price wars. Yes, you don't want to trigger price wars. Airlines do this, gas stations do this. It can be illegal depending on how you do it. If you call up your competitor and say, hey, let's fix the prices, that's bad. But if you just kind of keep your eye out and you look and see what's happening in the general market, that's usually legal. Okay, so this is the end of marketing section 9. Let's go on to topic 10, which is pricing strategies.